All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. The regular council agenda for August 11th, 2025 was accepted as presented. Who would like to make the motion? Councillor Sorensen. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, right out of the gate, we have a delegation this evening with Jason McDonald, the principal of JT Foster, and Jill Spencer, who is our vice principal at JT Foster. So just make sure your mics are turned on and the little red light is there, and the floor is all yours, you guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Hanley, and to the council for having us in here this evening. As I know, your agenda is very full with important items, and it's not our intention to take up too much more of your time. We appreciate the invite to speak about school improvement and some things that we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 years, changes we're making at the school, and some of the data that we've gathered that we feel is direct correlation to support those positive changes. So through our current collection of data process, when we collaborated with the staff on our school-based data, our academic data, our perception data, and usually what school principals and administration teams will do is get together with staff members and really take a hard look at what the data is telling us to see what we can infer to make changes as we go. And that process is very cyclical, where we see something, we try something, we get something, and then we see something again, almost like a see, do, get cycle. And through that last conversation we had with staff, what kind of came out of that data as like a way we're going for next year is grow with purpose, lead with integrity, and thriving community. And that's what came out of our information from last year. So this year I actually purchased some sweaters and swag and things for our staff that will really push that message. As Simon Sinek, a thought leader in organizational leadership, says that once you've gathered something that your critical mass has developed, make sure you spray it everywhere. Make sure you put it, as he says, it doesn't sound great, but make sure it's in your face. And this is what we do here. And this is what we came up with for this year. Jillian?
Yeah, so to improve a school is a large task. Of course, we start with the data, which Jason will speak to towards the end, but we just wanted to speak to a couple of the items that we felt were really important and kind of actually just happened organically through our time at JT Foster. Jason and I have been an admin team there. We're going into our 3rd year now. So we know all the things. I'm kidding. So there's kind of 2 pillars there where we wanted to look. One of them was with school culture and the other was with accountability of our students. Sorry, I have a loud voice today. So I'll speak first to school culture. So can you switch the slide for me? Thanks. So we threw this quote in here: school's culture has more influence on life and learning in the schoolhouse than the president of the country, the state Department of Education, the superintendent, or even the principal, teachers, and parents can ever have. One of the ways that Jason and I quickly thought we'd turn school around was with an elementary fundamental action, which is to greet students in the morning. So every morning, if you've driven past our school, we stand outside and greet anyone coming into our building. I think we can do most students by name, and most families or someone from the family by name as well. And this has been what we like to call a high impact strategy because it takes 20 minutes out of our morning, and the seeds of positive culture that it sows within our building are immeasurable, I think. So, and we've had a few people from the community come and tell us how wonderful it is. We've had grandparents that drop their kids off come by and say, we really appreciate that you do this. We get smiles out of some of the kids that no one's ever seen a smile out of. That's because I sing to them, but it's kind of one of those little things that we felt was small but mighty. So, yeah.
that morning greeting has been one of my favorite parts of the day. And we've all been through school, and so sometimes when um, we have been through it, but not through the education or the teacher to administrator formal education, what we find out very quickly is that there's also a hidden curriculum outside of teaching and learning that I would argue is fundamental and a prerequisite to make learning better. So it's not just about a great teacher or a great, while those things are very, very crucial, knowing that student that shows up in the morning, almost like what's the song, Cheers, where everybody knows your name. You want to go there, and it's a place where you're welcome.
So the second piece that we looked at, we got a bunch of pushback on, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, as you know, running a town, is we wanted to reformat our options. And I put that in quotations because in our junior high, typically students would choose their option courses to suit their needs, whether it was a sporting option, a foods option, art, whatever they felt they wanted to take. One of our goals was to really build the connection within the school. And we felt that one of the ways we could do that was to kind of force connection. So we did that by assigning students into their option classes. So we've kind of renamed them as complementary courses. What that did is allowed us to just put random groups of kids together who may never choose to be in an option together. Or we found that students were taking classes because their friends were in the class, which is great. However, that doesn't sow the seeds of connection that we felt were really important. And we just saw major divides between student groups and wanted to kind of build those together. So pair that with, we also quartered our options for our junior high students. So in the past, we do one option for one semester, one option for another semester. We felt it was important for students to get to know our teaching staff a little bit more. So in quartering the options, students have the potential to connect with more teachers through their 4 quarters rather than just their foods teacher in the fall and their sports teacher in the spring. So
Yeah, and I would also add that prior to that, what was happening when the students get to choose their options, it's great for the student because they can choose whatever they want. They're going to get in, and we all want that. However, the resources sometimes aren't necessarily there. So what'll happen is that teacher one, let's say, will get 35 students in a class, an option that's popular, and then teacher B may get 6 students. And so in an effort to provide a little bit of educational equity, what we thought was, how do we offer those students? We'll still make sure that everybody gets the option or complementary course that they want, but they're not going to get it for that big, long time. So they'll get a little bit of everything. And the benefit of that as well, other than what Jillian is saying, was that it now informs them on what they can choose when they get to high school. They find a passion and they go, hey, I actually really liked pottery. That was fantastic. I might take that in high school. And so we found that again and again, despite there being some apprehensions from our students and maybe a handful of our parents. I can speak to this one if you want to. We've also made lockers mandatory for our students. So if you would take a peek at the pictures that I have on the slide, that's what our hallways used to look like on a good day, where students' bags and shoes and binders and all that kind of stuff were just out in the hallway. Lockers were all open. What we found were that, kids will be kids, and I was this kid. I'll admit to you today, kids were putting or hiding open milk and yogurt in a locker so that eventually it would start to smell and so on and so forth. And not only is that just not fair to our custodians, but it creates a lot of behavior issues in the school. So with our recent cell phone ban at schools, we used it as an opportunity for students to have a safe place to store their phone during the school day. And every student is going to have a locker. And now the hallways are clean and the custodian can go along and do her job. And also the students have a life skill where they have to use a combination lock to get in their locker, keep it organized, store their items and organize it, and so on and so forth. Again, with this change did not come easy, but we're seeing the benefits in it that we'll show you in the data to come. Anything to add to that, Julie?
yeah, I just want to add to this that this is kind of a bigger picture too, because and I put this quote in here, what we allow, we expect. When we have a building that's a place of education where students are just dumping their bags on the floor, how are they now supposed to take their education seriously? That's not what JT Foster is about. We're having high expectations of those students, and we're going to make sure they meet those expectations. And this is a simple act, but I think the bigger picture is that's not the type of student we want at JT Foster. We'll make sure our students at JT Foster can use the systems and processes we have in place so that it's a positive building for everyone. That said, there are a number of students who use, accommodated locks, who might not be able to use a full combination lock, or a few students who struggled with the locks. And that's an open conversation we have about what can we do to support you and how can we make this easier for you. But as a school, for the whole of the school, it's been a really positive change. Small, but mighty again. Mhm.
We also made the decision to make sure that student clothing was appropriate regarding drugs and alcohol branded shirts, sexual references, inappropriate language, et cetera, et cetera. And so prior to my tenure at JT Foster, I think that was kind of, I don't want to say it was normalized, but it happened and people kind of turned a blind eye to it. And I don't see it as respectful. I think in a place of business, can you imagine if any of you showed up wearing a Coors Light shirt to a board meeting? That's just not how life works. And so while there's just expectations that we have to put on the students, I believe that is that hidden curriculum to promote real life situations. We would also say additionally, we had an issue with vaping in our bathrooms among the student population, which it was very clear among my school council that this had to get dealt with. And we faced it head on. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen anymore, but it certainly happens much less frequently. My point with this is that drugs and alcohol, these companies are targeting our young people to get them hooked. And once they get them hooked, they have a lifelong customer. So how could I, in one hand, allow these drugs and alcohol companies to come into the school and advertise, but also say that vaping is not allowed in the bathroom? They go hand in hand with addiction, and we felt it necessary to make sure that this is not the place to wear the clothing like this. Anything to add to that? So, and then lastly, fair is not everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need. And that quote is something that we try to live by for the sake of not fair is not always equal and equal is not always fair, as they say. And so we do our best to differentiate any of our discipline, and we handle our students on a case-by-case basis, and we follow our policies the best we can. And so that's different from everybody, for everybody, I should say. And so what does our data say? We've shown you a couple of things, and this is just to stay within our time today. Since we started implementing these specific strategies, we've seen some positive increases in our perception data. So what you see displayed here now is called the MRA, or Measurable Results Analysis. Livingston Range School Division asks us to, every school administers a perception survey among staff, students, and parents to get a pulse on how things are going. So overall, within the region of academics, culture, and leadership, we kind of averaged out. There's a more detailed analysis of this. I'm just kind of giving you the averages. We scored a 66, which is an ineffective school, and we were the lowest in the school division at that time. In 2023, we saw a slight increase in our data until we got our feet under us. And then as of 2024, we scored an overall of 74, which I would hate to plug this, but I'm going to. We are now the highest high school in the jurisdiction for perception. So this is fantastic news for us. It shows that we're going in the right direction. or would support that. Additionally, excuse me, this 2025 was our latest score, the 76. So as you can see, the 74 was 2024, and this past year in the spring was 76. So we're celebrating that for sure. We're very happy to have those results from the public, our students, and our staff. Additionally, some of our academic data. So this is the measurable, sorry, this is not the measurable results analysis. This is the government assurance framework. And every year we send this out to staff, students, and parents. I think this year it was Alberta government asked us to do grade 10 and grade 7. And so we surveyed all of those students and we surveyed as many parents as we could. And so in 2023, what you can see on that, the easy way to read this is that if you're seeing orange, that's not okay, that's declined. Yellow is usually maintained, green is improved. If you're seeing a lot of blues and greens, that's usually a good sign. So as soon as you open this document, you know how you did, basically, and then you can get into a deeper analysis from there. I won't go through the ins and outs of this too much, but as you can see, as we go through, there are some reds there from 2024. And then as we go through here, this is our 2025. And as you can see, more blues, more greens, more yellows, which is excellent. Former Superintendent Seguin called me the day that these came out, and I had to hold the phone kind of away from my head. He was like, "Oh, that's awesome, great job." And so we are also celebrating this data that we received back just this past year. So things are going very well. That said, the things that we've presented to you here today are obviously a small pocket of things. And certainly you may be thinking to yourself, this is nothing very earth shattering. This is just the beginning for us. What I can say is that the best analogy I've heard about organizational change, especially in schools, is that you want to be what's called a trim tab. So a trim tab, on the back of every huge boat, there's a massive rudder, where if that rudder goes back and forth, that whole boat's going to turn and everybody on board it is going to feel uncomfortable. But if the trim tab is this like attachment, it's like a rudder on the rudder that's smaller and makes those turns rather slow, easy, steady, and takes more time. People, whether it's good change or bad change, just tend to not like change. The best change that we want to make is on that trim tab approach where we take our time and do these things over the course of years. And I feel like this last few years has been exactly that. We've been able to strike a balance between making that uncomfortable change, but then also reaping the benefits that you see here today. So with that, unless you have anything to add, Jillian?
No.
I'll conclude. Thank you for having us today, and I'm open to questions as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know we've been talking about having you guys here for a while, and with everything that we've got going on with the schools this year, we thought it was really important to catch an update because the changes are noticeable. And I think it's really important that the community and surrounding area recognize those changes. As a parent, I started to see them over the last couple of years and have really appreciated, and the numbers don't lie. So congratulations. And what I'm taking from what you guys said today, you're going back to basics. It's nothing monumental. You're just going back to basics. You're respecting the kids, you're respecting the culture and the school overall and the community. And, you know, those changes are evident. So congratulations, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Councillor Miller.
Thank you. You have every right to be proud of the culture that you've created at that school and as it contributes to the community. I've worked with you a little bit over the last couple of years. My question is, how prepared are you to maintain that culture during decanting? You knew this was coming, didn't you? So I would imagine that you're going to face some hurdles because you're going to have one building with basically two schools, lots of new interactions. Is there anything that the community can do or that the town can do to assist you with that sort of integration of that culture so that we maintain it. Following the mayor's comments, everybody's thrilled with where you're at. And we'd hate to see any deterioration of that because of the decanting. Any comments in that regard?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think that what we've been doing the last 3 years has been laying the bedrock to prepare for such a task. And I don't actually think that at any given time, if I'm just being honest, that you're ever going to feel fully ready for such a big move. But with the culture of respect and collaboration relationships that we've been able to build, including with yourselves, I know Councillor Dozman is fire chief as well, and we've been working closely with all of our outside agencies as much as possible. For that very reason, we need to remain connected with each other and have good relationships so that when we do need help, we've added lots to those other buckets and people are there, they're ready for us. If I hope this is okay with me saying, but Mr. Mitchell, for example, I gave him a call here last year because we were in need for our hockey program, and being a fantastic community member, he answered that call. And so, pick any metaphor you want. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, or whatever you'd want to say. We look at this as a team approach, and that's what's going to get us through. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. And if there's anything you need from council going forward, as a regards decanting, I'll stay out of the education portion of it, but if there's anything that we can do to assist you in that regard, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Very much appreciated. Thank you.
I'd like to just add to what Jason said too, that we're committed to working with the AB Daily staff as well. So the admin team has planned every Friday to meet as an admin group and just go over how things are going and review things that are working and not working, because none of us have done this before and there's no guidebook. So we just need to remain close in our partnership with AB Daily to tackle those challenges that will come. We don't know what those will be quite yet. So and then lastly, the mayor of Jasper was talking about how to support his community through the adversity of the fires they had. And his big takeaway was the place is important, but the people are who matters, and the people are what really carries the culture through, right? So we've I think along with the students, our staff, we've really developed a strong culture with our staff and feel that that will be a really integral part to how successful our school can continue to be through decanting. I don't want to say adversity because maybe it won't be, maybe it'll be great. But it's big change with that rudder moving, like you said, Jason, so.
All right. Any other questions from council, comments from council? I'm not seeing any, but I also wanted to thank you guys. During the spring there, Sarah Lynn and myself came in and met with a bunch of the classes for the survey, for the community standards survey. And it was one of the highlights of my time as mayor, was really just seeing the community through the kids' lenses. And we got some incredible ideas, and every class was different. You didn't know what you're coming into. Sometimes it was 5-minute conversation, sometimes it was 45 minutes, and it was so valuable. And I would really love to continue that. And that's something we've been striving as council and administration, is really that integration and those relationships. We're doing our thing, you guys are doing your thing, but we are a community, and it is important that we're all in this working towards the same goals and hearing how people are seeing the community. So I appreciate those opportunities as well.
To just very much reciprocate that, I never got a chance to tell you this, Mayor Hanley, but our students, after you folks left, were talking about that
Okay.
and how great it was they felt, I think fundamentally they just felt, wow, like we matter. Our voice is important too. And I think, that's all very much part of that culture that we're trying to build as well. So very much, we appreciate you folks as well for coming in.
Well, we did collate all those results. They were on a council agenda, and I think they'll be really valuable for the next council to use when they're building their strategic plans and preparing what the next 4 years look like. So it's great to have their perspective. Once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your hibernation. Is that what it is? Or came out of your caves to do some work. We really appreciate you guys visiting us tonight.
Thank you very much for having us, and looking forward to being in touch with all of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, you guys. Thank you. All good? Okay, we'll get right into our reports. We'll start with the CAO report and the status report. Was there anything you wanted to highlight, Neil?
Basically, the THRC conceptual plan is probably the one I should draw council's attention to. We are nearing completion in the next month or so on that, and given the announcement, the joint announcement with the RCMP, that is gathering a new layer of importance now to get to the point where things can go out to bid possibly in November. There's a pretty tight schedule to meet there now. But any other questions? Happy to respond.
Any other questions from council? Not seeing any. We'll go to the capital plan status. Neil, is there anything you wanted to highlight?
The two items in the capital plan, which have been much discussed in the last week or so, is the membrane order and the new flusher, which was a last year's item, but it's still on delivery. We're hoping to receive the new flusher in the next few weeks. The membranes is still the next few months. We're still in touch with the supplier. As I'll explain in a little bit, those two issues are having some impact on our current challenges with the wastewater treatment plant.
Any questions from council? Not seeing any. And we'll go to your monthly report there, Neil.
So for the month of July, the regional water file continued in some discussions. Again, the focus is on the High River wells and the hydrological situation there, and High River Council's position on being able to move forward. Circular materials, we had a couple of discussions with them. Even though we've just started that relationship, there's going to be another RFP in late 2026, and things could change again at that point. We are engaging in a little bit of an early conversation with them and with the town of Staveley and the MD of Willow Creek on what might come in the future there and what might be possible. The Nanton Heritage Project is launching, and there will be an open house fairly early on with that. We seem to be getting a few interesting inquiries around that already from the community. It's the first time the town has done anything in that area for probably over 20 years. So there is a bit of interest. And of course, we've had some personnel changes and some succession going on. The current issues I mentioned in my report regarding the wastewater treatment plant, I can discuss that at length a bit more now, or I can wait for the operations report, whichever council chooses. We are in the middle of a fairly challenging moment right now with our facility, but we're hopeful that as long as it doesn't rain much more, we'll come out the other end relatively unscathed. Again, as I said last month, if council has any specific items that they'd like to see in agendas, given how few meetings of the current term remain, please contact administration as soon as possible. On the personnel front, we have unfortunately lost Daniel Doyon. He's just finishing up this coming weekend to the Edmonton area. He was our utility operator 1. Steve Nicol, our Public Works Operator 1, has been promoted to Assistant Utility Operator, given his relevant starter training outside of the town. John Thompson has been transferred to Public Works from Recreation to take up the vacant spot there. Recreation will deal with internal changes and then likely an external posting as we move forward. While it is sad to lose staff, it is good to see that we can lean heavily upon succession at the moment. There is an open competition for Administration 1 rather, right now, and we'll be going to interviews on that starting tomorrow, this week anyway. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Anyone have any questions, comments? Not seeing any. We will move on to accounts payable. Is there anything you wanted to highlight there, Neil or Clayton?
Nope, pretty much as usual. There's one big expense there you'll see right at the top. We made our first payment for the new pool liner. That'll get started in September once the pool closes.
Does anyone from council have any questions on it? Not seeing any. We will go to corporate service managers report. Is there anything you wanted to highlight, Clayton?
Nothing really out of the ordinary. Neil touched on the job posting that we have, and we're going to be doing interviews. Outside of that, I think it's in the parks report, the kitchen renovation at the arena here is complete. So we've got an RFP for a concession operator open right now. And then mostly business as usual.
All right. Any questions from council for Clayton? I see we're still struggling with the library windows and the water infiltration there.
Well, we did make some updates there, and last week when we did receive the rain, there was very little water that got in. So we have made some progress. We're still looking at all options there.
It is entirely possible that in the next term, we'll have to look at the restoration of the north wall of the building. It is in relatively poor shape, and some window replacements as well on the library side, but at the moment, we're okay.
Thanks, Neil. Operations department, Neil?
Okay. Well, I'll go into my relatively unscripted, that isn't in Bill's report anyway, on the stormwater situation, and the wastewater as well. There was a significant storm event on Sunday, August 3rd, and the Nanton wastewater collection system began to experience serious backup and permit contravention via 2 to 3 manholes within 48 hours. And that was quite similar to the events of the spring following the quick thaw that we had. The sources of the extra water and infiltration, where they're getting into the collection system, remain largely unknown. The wastewater treatment plant is a mechanical membrane facility completed in 2017, and it has no storage cells or lagoons and no current significant sludge dewatering capacity. That, of course, is being installed probably within the next month and a half on the sludge dewatering side with considerable provincial funding. The system appears to be challenged with high seasonal groundwater levels east of Highway 2 that intermittently and with very little warning overwhelms the plant's capacity to treat it. The points of infiltration are very difficult to discover, especially when the lines are full of water. 2 emergency storage cells were created this spring to relieve the impact of the contravention on the adjacent golf course, other properties, and the creek. By August, insufficient progress had been made in terms of having warm enough weather to deplete the amount of water in these cells. We ended up having to look at building more. 2 emergency storage cells were created this spring, and another one has been constructed since last week. 1 additional emergency storage cell from Earthworks with another set to get underway. Actually, it is already underway within Nell Smith this week. While stabilizing progress has been made, the flow of new wastewater and groundwater continues. So our advisory regarding wastewater in the community will need to stand for a little longer. Alberta Environment made a site visit on the 7th with myself and operator Level 2 Deuce. SEMA Engineering made a site visit on August 8th for advice with respect to what next. We have been advised that we're doing everything we can. Grab samples were taken last Friday from various locations as per direction, and I discussed further measures with Alberta Environment this morning. So there is more to discuss on where we go next with council, but it's been an interesting week, and in the absence of the manager of operations, who's been on the odd phone call while he's on holiday, I'm very grateful to all our operators for the work they've done, particularly Darcy Deuce. He's been really good.
Thank you, Neil. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Councillor Miller?
I've expressed my concern to Mayor Handley prior to this. I'm concerned about these cells that we're developing. Not that they're there, that we're using them. I'm more concerned about the mitigation after the fact. So that soil is now contaminated. And I'm wondering what Alberta Environment is telling us or telling you that we have to do to remediate those cells. I'm seeing a huge bill.
Oh, yeah.
To remove that, whatever's left in that cell, that soil. It's too bad we couldn't get a liner in there in time, but it is what it is. It's not in our budget. So I'm just wondering if there's a plan, if there is some guidance from Alberta Environment, or are we sort of hung out there on our own?
There is some guidance, but I prefer to discuss that with council in the closed session.
Okay.
Before we make anything public in that regard.
Okay, well, obviously it's a situation that everyone is well aware of, though, that, okay.
Yeah.
All right, enough said.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other, because Alberta Environment was involved in the spring and in this
Yeah.
most recent event, so they're well aware of
They're fully aware.
those cells and the emergency situation, but remediation will be, of course, necessary. Any other questions, comments regarding this and the Operations Department report? Not seeing any. We will go on to recreation. Is there anything you wanted to highlight there?
Just as Jordan's remarked, the kitchen reno has had a few little hiccups, but it should be completed at this point. And the RFP has certainly gone out for the concession operation. That's really it.
Okay. Any questions regarding recreation? Not seeing any. We'll go on to Georgina.
I'm back here, so I'm happy to answer them, but it's a fairly short report. We're in the midsummer slump, so I'll defer any comments unless there's questions.
Any questions for Georgina? Not seeing any. And then we'll go to Carlos' report. Steady as she goes.
Yes, he's going on some advanced driver training this week. He'll be gone from tomorrow through to Friday on that. That's his one big chunk of training this year, and that's a recommended program. Beyond that, it's been a fairly busy time for him, and we were really impressed at the amount of law enforcement assistance we got over Nanton Days to help him out.
Mhm. Any questions, Councillor Miller?
Some meeting back, Carlos brought up the issue of these kennels, these temporary kennels for dogs. And I'm pleased to see that he's pursuing it. I've had conversations with him about this issue, but what I'm seeing here is purchases pending final review and budget approval. Is the budget approved? Can it be approved? Will it be approved?
I've actually been working on this with Carlos, and so right now what we're doing is gathering costs on what it would be to put in a kennel to finish off some fencing that is already within the shop or purchase a kennel. So we're just coming down to costs right now on what our best option is to get that kennel in. I believe council has already said they would like to do it this year, so.
Okay, all right, thanks for that.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. We'll go emergency management. Was there anything to highlight there?
I think just that we have the Planning P workshop coming up in September. We, on our current wastewater issue, we're keeping an emergency management lines on it in case we have to go that route at some point. We hope that we don't. But situations like these, if nothing else, are a little bit of a dry run.
Any questions? All right, we'll go to council verbal reports. We'll start with myself. So since the last meeting, we had camp day at Tim Hortons, which is always a fun event, handing out coffees at the drive-through, and we all good? Yeah. Bomber Command Museum, they had their annual barbecue as well, and they've got a lot of things going as they do, including the new Legion crosswalk. And I know they're going to be working with the town to talk about where that's going to go this year, but it's important for them to get it in as soon as possible. They're looking at templates right now, apparently. So it's like, you guys need to talk to the town, get it sorted out. But that is coming soon. Chamber worked with them on Nanton Days and all of their initiatives. And then, of course, myself and Councillor Miller met with Minister Williams, who's the Minister of Municipal Affairs in Fort Macleod. And it was a really good little roundtable discussion as far as what councils are dealing with in rural Alberta and important initiatives that we had. One was ensuring there's a code of conduct because the ministry removed that in May. They are redeveloping a new code of conduct, but don't anticipate that till the spring. And he wasn't sure how that's going to roll out, but understood that it is an important item to get finished. And of course, a theme at the table was infrastructure funding, especially for new development. Pretty much every municipality, and especially Clare's Home, came with the numbers and said, you know, we want to grow, we need to diversify our tax base, but the cost of installing that infrastructure to open up new areas is just we need help with that. So he seemed to hear us loud and clear, but we'll see at budget time. And then, of course, met with Mountaintop Foods last week in discussions about what's going down with the wastewater treatment plant. We will go to Councillor Zopp.
Thank you. I'll just file my written report for the September meeting for July and August.
Sounds good. Thanks, Councillor Zopp. Councillor Miller?
I did attend the meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the new minister, with Mayor Handley, and I won't repeat everything she has already indicated. It was an interesting meeting. The key takeaway, at least for me, was in fact Clare's Home had a good chat with their CAO, and it was clear that everybody is quite agitated about the fact that the province has dropped our funding, increased our police and education tax, and blah blah blah. It was kind of perplexing to hear that it's been an issue for all of the communities at least in Southern Alberta. I also attended the board meeting for the Canadian Grain Elevator Discovery Center. They have some exciting initiatives that they're working on. I won't go into details, but suffice it to say that they aren't sitting idle. They are working on some really interesting things that will be good for them and good for our community too. I did attend the parade as a spectator. Wasn't able to get in the car with the mayor because I guess I'm too big. I'm not sure.
It's not what happened.
Anyhow, and I did also attend Seniors Day and had an ice cream with the bunch of the seniors, and I fit right in there.
Thank you so much, Councillor Miller. Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I did not attend the meetings with the minister, but thank you for doing that work. I did not attend the parade, which makes 13 years in a row.
We saw you.
Yeah, but I did attend the parade as a host to the entire family. So, so busy. Most of the meetings don't happen until next week. We got most of the committees kind of take the holiday for the summer, so not a whole bunch going on. But I was able to have some conversations with people in the room regarding the upcoming election, that kind of stuff. So, which is kind of nice that they feel comfortable reaching out and having that conversation. Looking at the way this election is going to shape up, it's great because I think everybody's here, which is good, which bodes well for the community, having a number of applicants. So as far as the council role right now, this is quiet summertime, but it is nice to see that. So just with that said.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, I got to attend a couple of farmers markets with Mayor Handley, passing out information on the events over for the long weekend. Thank you very much for organizing that, Mayor Handley. That was
It's your initiative, sir, so I'm glad you took it up and happy to join you.
It was very, very encouraging to see the number of tourists that were coming through town. Got to meet a lot of them. That was a very enjoyable experience. And then the parade on Monday was great. So all in all, thank you. And that's about it. So.
Well, you seem to have met the weight limit to sit in the car during the parade. Is that how it works, sir? Thank you, Councillor Sorensen. And yeah, as I said, or as Ken said, he reached out to council and said, hey, I want to do a couple of weeks at the farmers market and hand out the agendas for Nanton Days. And it's always a great time to kind of just be in front of people and hear what people have to say. Just little things too, right? Just feedback. It's always valuable for sure. All right, so with that, I'll need a motion that all written reports and verbal reports are recorded on the agenda for August 11th, 2025, be received for information and filing. Councillor Miller, all in favor? Motion carries. The councillors all having read the minutes, there being no errors, omissions, or corrections, the minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Town of Nanton held July 14th, 2025 were accepted as distributed. Who'd like to make that? Councillor Mitchell, all in favor? Motion carries. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. We're going to start right off with an information brief on the Northwest Nanton Area Structure Plan. And we have Georgina and the ladies from ORSC here to present on what they heard.
Great. Thank you very much and good evening. It's good to see you all again. So tonight, I'd like to go over where we're at with the Northwest Area Structure Plan. So we just concluded phase 3, which was engage and collaborate within the plan. And within phase 3, we actually had 3 sub-phases of public engagement. So phase 1 included visioning sessions with landowners and with you, council. These took place on March 26th and 31st, respectively. And the information that we gathered through these sessions, we used to develop 5 land use concepts that reflected the values and aspirations of the landowners and you, based on the conversations that we had and the diagrams that were created during those sessions. We then moved into phase 2, which entailed a council workshop on May 26th, where you determined what 3 concepts you would like to move forward to the public. And we then followed that with 2 open houses for landowners to view the public, the concepts, as well as for the public to come in and view those concepts and provide their feedback as well. And similar to what we did with you, we did a sticky note exercise where everyone had the opportunity to add any sort of comments that they wanted to be heard, but we also had in-person discussions and captured all of that. So with that, we then had phase 3 of our public engagement, and that was a community-wide survey. We opened the survey up from April 24th to June 2nd to gauge the community's values and priorities. So this was a little bit of a different topic than the land use concepts, but will help inform the policy direction of the plan. We did also, during phase 2, pardon me, have the concepts made available on the website. So the public was able to view the 3 concepts that were published, even if they weren't able to attend one of the open houses, and the town was accepting feedback on their website. So through these 3 phases of our engagement in phase 3, we did hear quite a bit of information, but if I could sum it up, I would say concept 3 is the preferred concept. There is strong support for parks and open spaces within the plan area. The community has a preference for low density and a little bit of medium density. They are acceptable of some high density as well, but they would like to see low medium as the more predominant land use within the district or plan area. There is a desire to see some housing variety. So there was an acceptance that it won't be only single family homes, but they would like to see some duplexes. There's some tolerance for row houses and apartment buildings. So there is some flexibility to get in a variety of housing types. Traffic safety is a priority for the community, although we had some pretty split opinions on traffic circles. We did see a strong desire for safe intersections, traffic calming, and pedestrian-friendly designs. There was very mixed opinions on light industrial as well. We seen about it through our survey. There was about 41%, sorry, not about, there was 41% in supported the inclusion near the Highway 2 intersection, and 44% opposed it. The remainder were neutral or formed no opinion on the topic. So that was left out of the plan area, but we can get to that in a few minutes. Another area that was a priority is ensuring that natural assets are preserved. So where there already are low-lying areas where water is collecting, to build upon that rather than relocating stormwater to a pond in another part of the plan area. And pathways and connectivity were very highly valued, as there was strong support for linking residential areas to parks, schools, and commercial zones through a walkable trail network. Then we did have, this predominantly came from one landowner, but a persistent, strong message that they did want to see the mixed use area on the east side of 26th Ave turned into residential. So you will see that reflected in our recommendation as well. I do want to note that after engagement closed, a few landowners did reach out to administration to note a preference for concept 1. So there was responses from a total of 4 people coming from 2 households that indicated they would prefer to see concept 1. These households are impacted by the concept that we have recommended. So they did want to voice their concern that they didn't want to see a road go through their property, and they had no intention of subdividing or selling their land. As we get into the design, we can talk to that a little bit further. Now that we have concluded phase 3 of the Northwest ASP project, we're moving into phase 4, which is drafting the document, but we do need some guidance from you, council, on what land use concept you would like to move forward with so that the document is informed by that decision. So based on the feedback that we gathered, we are recommending a potential land use concept, which I will get you to. This one here. So this concept was derived from concept 3, but we have made a few changes to it. So based on the feedback that we received, as well as good planning practice, we have changed the properties along 26th Avenue from large lot residential to low medium density residential to allow for future subdivision of these parcels, as you see occurring south of this plan area. This is twofold. Number one, the plan proposes a road there, so there is quite a bit of potential, and it will allow the community to diversify or densify. And number two, we actually heard from a few people, they liked the road being there because they did want that opportunity. It doesn't mean that anyone has to, but just like we're seeing in that south end of town, it would open up an opportunity if someone feels it's right for them. Next, we changed the lands south of the commercial area to high density to reflect the desires of the landowner to develop some high density. So that's this area here. We believe we had it as commercial previously, and so we went to high density just to provide him with some flexibility, as he also owns this parcel. So he has now two different opportunities, both commercial and higher density, as he has indicated an interest in some kind of multi-unit development. From there, we did change the mixed use land use area in the east side of the plan to low medium density residential and high density residential based on feedback from the landowner. So that is this parcel, the smaller parcel here on the east side of 26th Ave, and this southern part of Raffin. Based on the feedback that we got from the landowners, one of them was not able to attend the initial visioning session. They felt very strongly that this should be residential and not mixed use. So we did make that change on their behalf. Of course, it's up to you, council, to decide if you would like to stay with that. And then the southern portion of the Raffin property had been mixed use as well, and we changed it to high density because, again, we did mixed use for flexibility, but their intention was to most likely do some sort of multi-unit residential development, so this will still facilitate that. From there, we did move the pathway. Originally, the pathway was more along the road. We just moved it interior into the residential area so that there is the potential that it could be more of a pathway network and less of using your sidewalk network. So there's just some flexibility within that. We did add some additional large lot residential to increase development potential for the landowner in the south end and decrease the amount of green space slightly. So down in this area, there was more green space here. We also incorporated a few more roads to ensure there's connection into this vacant parcel in Westview, as at this time we're not sure what their plans are. We wanted to ensure there are some connectivity.
You blow it up a little, I have a hard time following your mouse.
Okay, I don't know if I can make my mouth bigger. Do you know?
No, but I did take away the other mouse, so it's a little easier.
Is
that better, Councillor Zott?
Yeah, I can make the image bigger. I don't know how to make the cursor bigger. Would it help?
He wants the picture bigger.
You want the picture bigger? Okay. This is okay? Okay. So this area here was previously additional park space. We did update it to include a little more of the large lot residential and this road connection going here. Again, it helps to facilitate these connections, but it also provides a little more land for this landowner to subdivide and sell when they're ready to do so. We added a commercial strip in the northwest side of the plan area, so that was up in this area. If you recall, this area was predominantly low medium density straight up to Township Road 163. We added the commercial to help diversify your tax base. The previous plan only had commercial in this corner here. So we just added a little bit more, number one, to just increase that ability to diversify your tax base. And number two, in our previous discussions, there was discussion that perhaps this parcel here, if annexed into the town, would be ideal for industrial development. So the commercial will provide a buffer to the residential should that happen. And lastly, we took the realignment of Township Road 163 and 26 Ave, which was shown in concept 1, and we did place it in this concept as well. Although it was maybe not the most preferred option for the road alignment, it will provide you with more opportunity in the future if your existing ball diamonds are to be relocated. It opens up that opportunity for Township Road 163 to fully connect into Highway 2. If we don't secure this potential now, you may never be able to secure that potential in this commercial area here. So it will create smoother traffic flows than if they need to turn and turn. So it's my recommendation, although maybe not favorable, I do believe it is a good move to secure some potential for your future as the town continues to grow and the ball diamonds may get relocated one day. So something important that we do need to discuss is that to make this concept work as it has been presented, there would be a need to obtain some of the municipal reserve lands, so the public lands, anything shown in green. The plan has quite a considerable amount, and you are entitled to take 10% of the subdivision area as municipal reserve when subdivision comes along. It would, of course, need to be in accordance with the plan. However, you're going to need about 3.3 acres more than what you're entitled to, which would mean either purchasing that land from the landowner at that time when they go to develop, or working into some sort of land swap agreement or something like that. That's something you will need to work out, but I need to know if that's something that you have an interest in doing, because if you don't, we do need to revise this concept to get you down to that 10% municipal reserve. The figures that are provided in your memo do include the existing ball diamonds and the triangular piece here. So the 3.3 acres is what's left when you take out what you already own and the 10% you're going to get through the subdivision. So a little bit of direction will be needed to determine if you want to continue to allow for that ample green space. It was something that was favored by the public. Or if you would like to just ensure you're only taking that 10%. With that, if you did want to ensure that this pathway is a green space and not a sidewalk through the neighborhood, we would want to also dedicate municipal reserve there. I didn't take the liberty of doing that. I wanted to know what your feelings are, but that would also increase how much land you would need to purchase or obtain in some way. So what I'm looking for from you tonight, Council, if you feel inclined, would be some direction on which concept you would like to move forward. It may be this one that I have provided as my recommendation, or it could be another one of those concepts, as well as any changes you would like to see either to my recommendation or concept 1, 2, or 3.
Okay. All right. Thank you for this, Katie. It's nice to see it come to fruition here and kind of pull together. I also appreciate the adjustments that you made based off of the larger landowners and their needs and wants. I thought that was really important to capture that. Let's open it up to council. Who wants to start us off? Councillor Miller?
Most of that land is owned by one group of landowners. And we've got, currently, you're showing 19% public lands, which is 9% more than we're entitled to. So what's their reaction? What are they saying to you about that extra 9%? Do they want to sell it to us? They want to give it to us? Because personally, I'm not interested in buying it. Why would we want to do that? If we have to settle for 10%, then that reduces the amount of reserve area, green area, right?
Correct. So the 19% does include your ball diamonds because it is in the plan area as well as,
But we already own that.
yeah, and so the 19% is just to show you it within the plan area, 19% of it is public lands.
Okay, so that's not what I want to know.
Yeah, and
Okay,
so
sorry.
3%.
Yeah, so it's about 3.3% is what would be needed to be purchased. When we take out what you already own and we take out what you could get, the 10%, which is about 15 acres that you can get from the developer, then you're left with 3.3 acres.
So can we eat up 3 acres or 3%, sorry, 3% by reducing the amount of green space?
Absolutely. We certainly could. The first opportunity area I would see is just increasing the amount of land in the south portion here. That could be large lot residential.
I mean, is that wetland always a wetland, or we gonna have to find a way to keep it flooded? I know,
In
I know
this
the,
case, the site would need to be engineered to direct stormwater to that area. The province had identified that area as a wetland, a seasonal marsh, I believe it was. And so that's where the concept kind of started in discussions with the landowner. We don't believe there's truly a marsh there, but he did or does store snow there in the winter. And so we believe that just that activity caused the satellite imagery to appear like there's a wetland there. It was actually his suggestion or his vision for his land that there be a pond there so that the homes could back onto a pond as it's something that he enjoys himself. So that's why it was incorporated into the concept, but we could certainly cut back on the amount of green space in that area to get you down. It is something I would have to take back to the drafts person to see exactly how that would work. It's not something I could say.
if we eliminated that piece of wetland that really isn't a wetland, it's a low-lying area, and the green space around it, would that constitute the 3% we're trying to get rid of? Okay, you can't answer that right
Yeah,
now, but
that's a tough one, but probably
probably.
around there.
So we get rid of the wetland, we get rid of that green space, that satisfies the landowners and negates the need for council and the town to buy that piece of property. Is that right? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. All right. All right, thank you.
Well, I imagine it's a little bit more trickier than that because there's a couple of landowners that make up that percentage, right? So that landowner, we don't necessarily know what percentage.
You're right. It is more complicated than I've made it sound. What would happen is when you adopt the area structure plan, you're saying this is where we're going to have green space. When someone comes to subdivide, let's just say they're subdividing in the middle of the plan area. There's no green space there, right? We will have them provide cash in lieu if it was not needed, or you will say the green space is going to be satisfied in this other area. So it really gets nailed down at the subdivision stage, but it needs to be in alignment with your plan. So if you're not dedicating it, or if you're subdividing an area that doesn't have any green space, you're accepting that it's going to be deferred to another time, or like in this case, it wouldn't be this, but the other scenario is they're paying cash because they're not dedicating land.
I think to focus council for the goals tonight, I'd like to hear where everyone stands with that 3%. Because we don't need to know the details. That's your job, is to come back to us and kind of figure out where it makes the most sense. But I'd love to hear from the rest of council. We've heard from Councillor Miller that we should just meet that 10%. Where's the rest of council on that perspective? 10%? 10%? 10%? Or do you have a?
Yes. Just a moment though. As I reviewed, the MD Willow is doing a land use rewrite right now. I looked at the photo of that area on on their website. It identified wetland here, but a wetland up here as well. We haven't heard that before.
No.
How's that gonna impact any of this?
I will have to review that. The provincial data that I had reviewed, it was north in this area where we did locate the storm pond, and then in this area in the south.
I was
So-
surprised to see it. That went up there by 26th Avenue.
Yeah, that is news to me, so I'll have to review and see where that
I
data
did
came from.
bring the email of their land use bylaws on the draft is.
Yes,
But
I will take a look.
so if in fact we can't touch that, it impacts this 10% or whatever.
So when there is a wetland, the goal is to maintain it. But if you need to relocate it, you have the ability to do that with an Alberta Environment's approval. Or you can, what they call replace it, which is essentially pay cash to make up for the fact that you have removed it from the site. So in our case, because it would become a stormwater retention pond, we'd essentially be, sorry, did I say you can replace? This would be a replacement because you would be taking it and engineering it and then putting it back in the same spot. We're not actually leaving it alone because we do need to direct your stormwater somewhere. But we wouldn't be removing it, which I believe is the third one I incorrectly stated, sorry.
Are we doing it? Or is
The
it-
developer would be responsible, so they would need to do at subdivision stage some detailed engineering to determine how big the storm pond needs to be based on the subdivision and how grading needs to occur to direct the water to those two ponds if you go with this concept.
I feel like we're spending somebody else's money when we agree to this, so. It's his call, not our call.
Well, and that's why we're working with them collectively, right? So we're only at stage 4. So once we come back and we say we only want 10%, they'll come back with another draft. The developers will all have a say and say, no, you're totally off the mark. And we go back and we adjust and try to meet them. And Neil, remind me, I'm pretty sure the MD has seen this as well, right? They've been given.
We have spoken with their planner, who's also with ORSC, and she did want to lock down a final design to bring before we really opened up that discussion. So they have not, although they were, I believe, made aware that these were on your website and they were invited to participate in the survey. We have not sat down and had that specific conversation about the land use, that concept that you've selected.
Okay. Councillor Sopp, so are you for the 10% as opposed to the 13% of parkland?
Either way.
Either way, okay. Well, I think the consensus is the 10% at the council table, so we'll send that with you guys to kind of fine tune and see what that could look like.
Aside from that, are you happy with the recommended concept, with the changes that I've incorporated? Would you like to see anything else? Put anything back? Any further direction for me to go back with?
Councillor Sorensen?
I'm pretty happy with the concept you presented. Your idea of flexibility, I think, is extremely important for the next council, possibly. As you know, we're going to be using old infrastructure for this project. So there might be some engineering problems we have to take a look at. I don't see, there's probably going to be a very small margin of error. I think we could probably work with that. So for right now, I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing.
Thank you. Now this concept, just on the engineering and servicing note, there's very little capacity that you have in this area to take on any new sewer. And so it does rely on all of things aligning, your new water line potentially coming from High River and the realignment or new line to your wastewater treatment plant for this to really be able to go full scale. So I think it is important to note we can do a lot of planning, but I cannot change your infrastructure. But this will put you in a place that when all of the balls line up, you're ready to develop, or your landowners are ready to develop.
Or as we gather realistic information on the water line or
Yes.
other infrastructure, we might have to adapt the ASP to meet the realities of our
Absolutely.
infrastructure. So,
Yeah.
Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, so earlier when we were talking about your surveys and your engagement. So the number of people who were for commercial, or is that light industrial?
That was the light industrial.
Wasn't.
Commercial was similar. The respondents, off the top of my head, I can't recall, were, again, open to it. They did say that if there is commercial in the plan area, they prefer that it is more kept to the main streets and away from the interior commercial areas. It was important to the community that you're not taking away from your downtown as well. So they didn't see a need for the neighborhood commercial nodes within the central area of the plan.
Okay, yeah, so with that said, we've done a lot of work to divert traffic from 26th Ave. I fear as soon as we open up a convenience store on that corner, 26th Ave is the new Highway 2. So it is a concern. I would be concerned. I live a block away from 26th Ave. You live on 26th Ave. So and there's just a couple of things, even with that, the way the road and the future access to Highway 2, it would be access to one direction of Highway 2
Yes.
eventually.
Yeah, and there's potential. If you see up in this corner, one of your businesses is actually outside of their parcel. They're operating within the highway right of way. If they were to be scaled back, there would be potential that you could actually cut through there as well, possibly. And that was proposed in the former ASP for this area as well.
Okay, which is good. And that could be easily done now, but, yeah, that's the only thing that really concerned, because, and again, we have the commercial, it seems like we have a lot of it for this, to me. When I look at the community, I'm looking for like a convenience store or something. I'm not sure if I really want a community where the highways, because that will definitely pull away from downtown. So that is a little bit of concern of mine right now. And again, I'll go back to, we've done a lot of work to steer traffic away from 26th Ave. And I think in one fell swoop, and this is down the road, obviously, we could erase all that, because that's the quickest route if you're pulling off. Because I guarantee you that somebody's gonna put a liquor store in there. So that's my concern. So I'm okay with, I'd rather, if I lived in the community, I'd rather have the convenience store in the community, not on the outskirts. I don't understand that, why people think that I want to go as far as I can close to a major roadway to get to a convenience store or something along those lines. So that's the only real concern. The rest of it, I'm fine. The 10%, the pathways. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't envy you, because you come up with a plan and then one landowner phones and says, well, I have a concern. And then we change the entire plan, or we adapt to that landowner. What happens when the next landowner phones and says, well, I don't know how we're not pleasing everybody, but it sure seems like we're trying. And I appreciate what you guys are going through, but eventually we've got to see what's best for the town as a whole, and not one or two landowners. And I know that's a balancing act we have to do. And if you're listening, whoever the landowners are, yeah, it's not a popular thing, but ultimately I've said this before, we're elected to make decisions, so I don't mind the concept, but I'm a little concerned that every time somebody said, I would like this, or I like this, or I like this, we changed. I'm not sure how we get around that.
Yeah, this is something I've said from the beginning. There's no one plan that's going to please everybody. So it is something we've been mindful of. We just never will. And so that does bring me to something I had wanted to speak about as well, as the comments that we received regarding the road through 26 Ave properties is specifically to these properties in this area where we have proposed a north-south road. And it would be through these properties. So there's a couple where it would just clip them because they are not quite as deep, but others it will divide them in half. And so it does create potential for subdivision there, but it does also cause some concern for your residents. From a planning perspective, I didn't remove that road to satisfy those residents because it provides, again, some opportunity for the future and some connectivity that is going to make it easier to navigate the neighborhood. It is important to note, just because the road is there doesn't mean that they are obligated to develop the road or subdivide or sell their land. But it means when we are developing in that area, we're taking into consideration a road should be there. So if someone comes in and says, I want to build a detached garage, that's great, but you can't locate it where we plan to have a road. You can locate it east of the road area. Maybe depending on the proposal, we could entertain west of that road. We'd really have to see what came forward. But as the property or as time passes and properties change hands, the opportunity is there for the next person if they would like to subdivide. And it's going to take time because you need all of these properties to be in alignment. But as things start to happen, people do want to subdivide, we can start putting easements or access right-of-ways on these properties to help secure that. But you're providing a vision for the future. And as the opportunity is there, we don't want to force anybody, but as the opportunity is there, if you're aligning with the plan, we can make it happen.
Councillor Miller.
There's a dry pond, your drawing here just cuts off the tip of it. But we already have a dry pond on 20th that could be stormwater. It's effectively called a dry pond because it's always dry. I've never seen any water in it. It's always bone dry. So I'm sorry, I'm going full circle on this, but this pond behind those properties, or this so-called wet area, if what we need is a stormwater catchment, why can't we divert it to this dry pond that isn't in use?
Again, we would need some engineering involvement, but it's likely possible that it could be redirected that way. This plan specifically, we just included the pond to appease that landowner, and then it seemed to be quite a big hit with the public and the other landowners.
So we've already agreed, I think, it's gonna go away because it exceeds the 10%, it's 13%. But to go full circle, if we need stormwater catchment, either we make the one in the north end bigger, or we find a way to divert stormwater into the dry pond that's never been used. It's a waste of land. We could build on it.
Yep.
But the province probably says, no, you can't. You need to have that whole catchment.
There will need to be a study to prove that it is not a wetland, just because it has been identified as being such. But based on the conversation with the landowner, it shouldn't be overly onerous to prove it's not a wetland.
Well, the only time there's been water in that dry pond in the 6-7 years I've lived here is when we flooded for kids to skate in the winter. That's it. It's never seen a drop of water. So personally, I'd encourage you to see if there's a way to incorporate that as part of our stormwater.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we're kind of clear as far as where council is right there. Is there any more feedback that you're looking for from council at this point? I think maybe having a couple of options of what that 10% could look like. What I'm hearing is that middle pond there was an important element for that landowner. And like you said, many people kind of embraced the idea of the storm pond or water in that area. But I'd be curious to see what our options are because we've got this green space where the pathway is on the west side there as well. Is that an option? So on the west side there?
This here.
Yeah, behind the larger lots.
To remove.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is in your Westview area structure plan, there is a green space here as well. So it would connect into that. I believe there was a walking trail in the Westview ASP as well. So that's
Okay.
why it did get put there, but it could just end at this T and not continue further to help reduce. Yeah, we can explore that. I don't know like, yeah, I don't know how many acres you'll get out of that, but it would help to reduce, yes.
And
This
the
corner parcel as well.
yeah, that green space, it kind of seems a bit like dead land almost. Like, is it really even developable or
It
'cause
would.
that seems like an easy piece if we wanted to.
Mhm. Yeah, it was put there to again just buffer these
Okay.
estate style from the road and whatever may happen in this area in the future, but it could be reduced or yeah, completely removed.
Okay. One last question I had with the incorporation of the existing ball diamonds. Have we talked to the Bomber Command Museum about their expansion plans and how that could incorporate into this plan?
Well, so they were left out of the plan area.
Mhm.
They are south of where we end. So to the best of my knowledge, they haven't been engaged. On my side, they haven't been engaged in the conversation. We have been focusing on just what's in the plan.
No, they're not within the plan area.
But I
I-
guess just where I'm coming from is just minor talks about a potential road going through there if we were to relocate there. So I just want to see if we need to consider that.
We could certainly approach them for comment once council select a concept, yes.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? Councillor
Yeah,
Mintley?
real quick. Yeah, I wouldn't, don't spend a whole bunch of time with the ball diamonds. I saw it in some of the comments. Somebody thought it'd be a great area for nobody wants to live beside a ballpark. That's why they're in school yards and out of town. Nobody wants a ballpark beside their house.
Mhm.
Okay, so I know it's not in the plan, but I saw some comments that people thought be a great spot for a clover leaf and what have you, which is great. But that's a lot of energy and a lot of money to spend on something that we already have that doesn't get used a whole bunch now, but so that's kind of where I'm at, even the discussion with the ball diamonds, the Bomber Command, and I'm glad you guys didn't include that in that last ball diamond in the green, because ultimately it's best for the town that they do expand, and it's going to happen, just maybe down the road a bit. So that's kind of where my thoughts on the ball diamonds.
I appreciate that. Do you need anything else from council this evening?
No, I think I've got it. We'll make some revisions and we will come back.
Okay, and the next, you'll come back in the winter, I suppose.
There's a resolution required.
Yes, yeah, if you could make resolution of your direction to refine the recommended land use concept, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Sarah Lynn, do we have one drafted by chance or?
There's one in the RFD that right at the top. Use that one. Okay. Right at the top, that recommendation.
This one?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's pretty close to a resolution form.
Okay. All right, that for the purpose of drafting the Northwest Area Structure Plan, that council choose recommended land use concept derived from concept 3 as presented, I suppose with the 10% adjustment for green space as the preferred option. Does that kind of capture it? Okay, who'd like to make that motion? Councillor Mitchell? All in favor? Motion carries.
And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow, 127 pages. Okay, moving right along, we'll get right to the information brief on mile 56, the Park Rain Garden project.
Sorry, fine, only hang on, let me scroll a bit.
It's ways down. 91,
91.
89, 89.
Okay. Okay, the mile 56 rain guard. This is just to announce that the town is working with Associated Engineering to implement the design and construction of a rain garden project and to provide a little bit of a status update. We're pleased to announce that that project is finally going forward. There was a submission made to the federal government quite some time ago. And just before Christmas, I think we heard that, yes, $200,000 was being made available to the town for its proposal regarding a rain garden. We had initially submitted the proposal because it was a federal program that somewhat met the needs of the planned area. And in that sense, we have been working with Associated Engineering ever since the proposal was developed to get to this point. We've come to a consensus on a final design for that, and we're ready to go out to tender for parts of the work. The town has committed 56,500 from the Public Realm Reserve previously to support the project, and there's an additional $200,000 from the National Infrastructure Fund. It's a focus to deal with stormwater runoff, but also do some park and amenity creation at the same time as we try and implement the Mile 56 or VAIC area park concept that we put together back in 2022. So we're hoping to get things done, or at least properly, largely implemented by the end of October. That's maybe a little ambitious given where we are, but we're going to give it our best effort, and we will keep council informed. The drawing is here, and you can see from the basic graphic here on my right. This is the area that will be significantly developed for a larger scale rain garden. You can see that our stormwater infrastructure is passing nearby, and the hope is that this will be an effective stormwater management tool in that area. And Jordan attached all the major pieces of the drawing. They're a little large scale there, but also to draw to council's attention the gazebo that's already been constructed this year and the area where we'll be focusing our efforts.
Well, this is so exciting. I know it's been talked about as long as I've been on council, which is nearly 12 years, about, what is that impression when people are driving northbound through town? Because driving southbound, it's all green and lovely, and northbound, it just doesn't have the same experience. So This is really exciting to see, even over the last couple of years, how things have come together and really improved that space over there. So it's great. Any questions, Councillor Saab?
Thank you, your worship. Neil, this 56,500 from the public realm, did we not get the grant? Or weren't we doing this behind the library? I thought you got approval
There were-
to use that money over there.
There was two proposals submitted, and one was approved, totaling $200,000 from the federal government. Given the other work that was going on 2.5 years later with the RCMP, the decision was taken in collaboration with the federal government to move the funding to Mile 56.
And did they not give approval to
Yes.
use that money?
Yes.
So 200,000 is the grant and the 56,000 is our contribution.
Yes,
So we
it's
always have to
$49
have that
project. Yeah.
contributing element to every grant.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Let's get on to data centers. So I mentioned at the last meeting that we had a resident who was super keen on the potential of data centers in Nanton, and Neil and I jumped on a virtual meeting with some people at the province and with this resident, and we wanted to just bring an information brief to council to know that we've talked about it and just kind of get a really basic understanding of what that involves. And in case anyone was to ever come to the town with an idea, is it even possible in our town? Neil?
So it should be stated, as I said in my report, that a definitive fit for something like this cannot be determined without a stakeholder or a proponent involved. Because you need to respond to a proposal. Usually for these things, even at the senior government level, that's the same thing. They want to know, well, what kind of data center are you talking about? How big? What's it doing? What does it need? The requirements of different scales and types of data center seem to be pretty varied in terms of the energy, the computer cooling systems, the land, and the staffing involved. One is just not the same as another. Administration is happy to have any factual errors corrected here by someone with better knowledge. We've done our best, but it is quite, you do get into quite technical discussions quite quickly. A data center is a physical facility that is used to store applications and data. The design is based on a network of computing and storage resources that enable the delivery of shared applications and data. The key components include routers, switches, firewalls, storage systems, servers, and application delivery controllers. The business activities that they might support include email and file sharing, productivity applications, customer relationship management, enterprise resource planning, big data, AI, machine learning, virtual desktops, communications, and more. The economic benefits would largely stem from assessment for the municipal tax base and local employment multiplier effects. Clustering of satellite businesses around a data center is also an often touted multiplier effect, assuming that any given data center is going to be present for the medium to long term. Some can be a risk for the long term, depending on the type of business that's implementing it. A 400 megawatt facility could potentially support 200 to 300 jobs, both direct and indirect, while a smaller 30 to 80 megawatt facility might support something around 12 jobs. Nanton, like many other communities, is well located for broadband internet connectivity. The real questions are around the suitability of a site for the data center. And that comes down to the electrical infrastructure requirements, whether or not it will generate its own power, land requirements for the installation, water requirements, depending on the cooling system required, the current economy of scale with respect to data centers, and that's an important one for this information brief, and local noise tolerance, which ORSC has focused on in the past in their own documents. Again, it's scale dependent, but noise within an urban centre from these things is not a small concern. Most of the data centres currently being announced in Alberta are of the 400 megawatt variety or larger, mainly being sited in counties and MDs in central or northern Alberta. There are some exceptions to that, but it's for adjacency to natural gas fields, really. To put this into perspective, Nanton as a community draws about 2.5 megawatts, and the power substations currently serving the local area have capacities of just under 30. Fortis have stressed, however, that serious larger proposals can potentially change the local power conversation. Many of the facilities being approved run on independent gas plants, again, proximity to gas fields, with plans to sell surplus power back to the grid. So the potential connectivity to the AltaLink transmission system, and that's about 10 kilometers east of Nanton, is also an important factor in some data center locational decisions. Based on the information that could be obtained at the time, we do not likely have enough land within the boundaries for anything close to a 400 megawatt data center. Even the D2S Farms Limited 129 acre property would be insufficient for such ambitions. A smaller niche installation would not be outside the realms of possibility, though. If water is required for cooling, there are significant limitations to what could be provided, even with a regional line, with additional questions around how wastewater from these facilities is treated and discharged, and in what volumes. I wrote that before last week. It is very difficult to speculate around this without a specific proposal to assess. For a data center within an urban boundary, location and adjacency are known to be major issues in terms of noise. They can be fairly noisy, so there would need to be a reasonable buffer between any data center and residential areas or particular amenities. ORSC have provided a periodical with some information on that, and just to highlight, some interesting proposed data centers in our province include one 100 megawatt data center on an 850 acre site in the Glenwood area. Foothills High River, the 400 megawatt data center on a 200 plus acre site. Fox Creek, 99 megawatts on a 19 acre site, which was interesting. The MD of Pincher Creek, 100 megawatt data center on a large industrial site. They're not very easy to compare. Smaller, less common data centers that are under 100 megawatts are found within or very close to some urban municipal boundaries. And two of the best examples, maybe from our perspective, are in BC, one in Canal Flats and one in Mackenzie. They're on 10, 11 acre sites. However, there's not many of those around. They seem to be way more niche than they were a few years ago. So if the town were to expand into energy, expend any energy into looking at a data center, this latter scale facility would probably be the starting point. So the only additional comments I've got on it are that they're not proliferating strongly in southern Alberta at this time, but this could change with technological and natural resource advancements. Other regions of the province check more boxes, at least they seem to. But I do think the town could reasonably discuss, if approached, something niche with a proponent in the 20 to 30 megawatt range that needed a site of up to 10 acres, located away from residential areas, one of our last pieces of industrial land, for example. However, that does not appear to be a common a common type of data center being approved at this time. We've looked into it. We're certainly open to discussions with a proponent if they come along, and if council wants administration to spend some time on this, certainly can. But it would probably be more likely to be a proposal within the MD of Willow Creek that we'd be looking for multiplier effects from.
Any questions? Councillor Miller?
I don't have a question, but I haven't in my past had the pleasure of working on a couple of data centers. most of which, I'm sorry, not most, only 2 of them. But those data centers are in urban areas in downtown Calgary for the most part. They're noisy. They have a massive draw on water, as I understand it, and have a massive requirement for rooftop cooling. So none of those data centers, as I recall, are immediately adjacent to a residential area. I'm not sure anybody would want to live beside them. They're nice looking buildings. You drive by them, you probably wouldn't know that it's a data center, but I can tell you they are. And when I think about those buildings and what goes on there and the noise that they produce, maybe east of the highway, if we have the land, which we don't. So I'd have a hard time swallowing this as a recommendation to the town. It doesn't seem to me to be the prudent thing to do. And unless there's a need for a small niche 20 megawatt, 30 megawatt data center, I don't know how we could accommodate it. So I would be very reluctant to pursue this any further than what you already have. I appreciate the effort you've put into it, but I think my suggestion is we move on.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Miller. Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Miller. I don't think conditions in Nanton are conducive to this type of project, so I think as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't pursue it any farther.
Thank you, Councillor Sorensen. Councillor Saab.
Thank you. I went to the open house, or 2 of them with the data center in High River.
You did.
I think Nanton should move on from this period. For water being the number 1 thing. Until we get all our water issues fixed, we wouldn't even want to think of going down this avenue.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Well, and I think it's very clear. It's just we're nowhere near that. But I think this information brief is so valuable because people are talking about data centers, and we can say, yeah, we've met with people, we've kind of broke it down. Here's what it's going to look like. And by the off chance that an investor does come in with a vision, we at least have a starting point, and we can go from there. But by the sounds of it, we're certainly not pursuing anyone. But if they come to us, this is where we've got something started. Okay, thank you for this, Neil. This is great. Okay, request for decision on a traffic light assessment on 20th.
So the administrative recommendation here just is that the Minister of Transportation urgently consider a new traffic signal assessment and implemented solution for Highway 210 at 20th Street southbound for the following reasons. Questions over the timing methodology employed in the 2009 traffic signal assessment, the need for a 30-kilometre-an-hour school zone on this section of highway for at least the next 2 years, the need for additional traffic calming for speed limit compliance given provincial restrictions on photo radar installation and limited RCMP, sheriff and community peace officer capacity to gain effective compliance during peak traffic flow, and more effective incident prevention through risk mitigation around dangerous goods passing through Nanton by virtue of improved speed limit compliance. The imminent imposition of a temporary school zone on Highway 2 South and a new provincial emphasis on municipalities doing more to mitigate or manage risks around likely major incidents has prompted administration to bring this forward. Livingston Range School Division has leased or rented space in 3 properties adjacent to Highway 2 South for the purpose of decanting students during the Nanton Schools construction project over the next 2 years, the Bomber Command Museum of Canada, THRC Warm Room and the United Church. The town, in partnership with the LRSD and Alberta Transportation, will implement a 30-kilometre-an-hour temporary school zone along the southbound corridor for the next 2 years. The discussion on this topic has resulted in staff reviewing the 2009 traffic signal assessment that the town at that time requested from Alberta Transportation. in the hope that a full set of traffic signals would be implemented at the 20th Street intersection, presumably similar to what the town of Claresholm, with very similar traffic volumes and flows, presently enjoys. In 2009, after a traffic count project that was conducted, and I inexplicably, I think the best way to describe it, at a lower traffic volume and flow time of year, which was late January, the Technical Standards Branch recommended pedestrian traffic signals are not warranted and would cause significant operational and compliance issues. The municipality educating pedestrians and enforcing pedestrian crossings, lit or unlit, appeared to be sufficient for the branch based on a warrant score of 47 for the southbound highway lane. Again, that being established at one of the lower annual months for traffic volume and flow. Since initiating its own CPO service in 2022, we've certainly found there to be very high volumes of traffic, particularly in summer. And we think it would be good for the province to take a look at this again. A new provincially mandated and managed traffic count project in the summer months could obtain a realistic picture for decision makers. In addition, the Automated Traffic Enforcement Guideline 2025 appears to make it impossible for the town to consider, even if it wanted to, photo radar. That's a politically difficult initiative anyway, given the cash cow label that comes with that. A road traffic collision with a dangerous goods load is considered the most likely emergency scenario for Nanton under emergency preparedness. The new Emergency Management Act and Disaster Recovery regulation places an ever greater onus on municipalities to mitigate and manage risk. Calming traffic on Highway 2 through Nanton is arguably a shared provincial and municipal risk to manage, but the province holds all the regulatory and infrastructure authorities. If driving south from Red Deer or even Edmonton, Nanton is the first of three towns for hundreds of kilometres, followed by Claresholm and Fort Macleod, where the posted speed limit goes down to 50, due to drivers having to navigate an urban centre. It appears highly unlikely that any major bypass work, as laid out in a 2007 plan, will take place in the next 20 to 30 years. So whether or not council wants to advocate to the province for this, administration wanted to bring it forward at this time. Implementing a school zone on the CanMex corridor is not exactly a normal or ideal action, but it's one of the few tools available to make Highway 2 South a little safer for the next couple of years. Additional traffic signals should arguably be explored under peak traffic conditions as a matter of urgency for the long term, and council could have some form of standing advocacy policy on the matter.
Okay, thank you, Neil. I guess my initial thought is, are we too late to capture that road traffic? Like, if we send this this request in, it would need to happen as soon as possible, right? And then when would those traffic lights go up?
My guess would be if a count project happened now, it would be probably next spring or summer, if the province scheduled it that way.
Yeah, so we can look at it both in the short-term need
Yeah.
with the 30 kilometers in the schools, but ultimately the long term is we know those crosswalks are a constant issue, and the near misses that we have need to be considered as well. All right, I'll open it up to council. Councillor Zopp, you're going to start us off.
Thank you. Neil, I've lived here a long time. I've been up and down this road a million times. When did it become Highway 210? What's that about?
That's me transcribing from the provincial government's report. That appears to be the formal designation of that area of highway.
Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, we'll have to change all our signs. I do appreciate you stated here, because we've got electronically the speed limits coming through, that we are able to record that. So if nothing else, it shows the province that we have taken the data collection kind of upon ourselves. And we've all, whether you're walking or you're driving, people ripping through town. But I think we have to go forward with this. And you did touch on it, is the dangerous goods. And people will tell you, if you only knew what goes through the middle of your town. We don't have a dangerous goods route. So, and it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. 20 minutes down the road, there's a light on each way. There's a full on so yeah, I would definitely pursue this, just for the safety aspect. Because if we don't, we say we missed the boat as far as the 30 kilometers, the school zone, maybe that's the catalyst to get it going too. And maybe expedites things. So whether it's, maybe we get it in the first 6 months, given that at least you'll be there for the second half of the canting. So yeah, I appreciate this, and I would strongly recommend we go forward with it. So.
Enough to make a motion? So the motion would read, I do see there as well, Councillor Miller moved to direct the Chief Administrative Officer to request that the Minister of Transportation undertake a new traffic signal assessment for Highway 2 at 20th Street southbound under peak traffic conditions and pursue the implementation of appropriate traffic control measures to support the upcoming temporary school zone and improve long-term speed compliance and safety. Councillor Mitchell's made that motion. Councillor Miller, did you have additional thoughts on the matter? No? Okay, we'll put it to vote then if nobody else has any comments. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're getting through this, guys. Item 5.3, request for decision on the industrial lands roads improvement approach. Neil.
So further to council direction on June 2nd, we do wish to consult on one further aspect of the work before drafting full bylaws and roads improvement plans, as the path chosen will have significant impacts on municipal reserves, borrowing capacities, and taxation for other future major projects across a lot of emergent priorities. Our recommendation is that the industrial lands roads capital improvements be treated as a phased package of 3 standalone projects over 3 to 5 years, about $1 million a time, starting with the area identified as Phase 1, which prioritizes the section of 18th Avenue, roughly around the area where Mountaintop Foods are located, as well as Nanton Water. And as a reminder as well, adjacent to those properties, the town's remaining larger parcels, which aren't fully serviced of industrial land, are sitting there. So getting those areas fully serviced is arguably a priority if the municipality is going to do this. The single project option, as a reminder, last fall the specifications were put together. If it were going to be executed as one, the total cost of the project was estimated to be up to 2.8 million, and the following contributions would be applied to the project pursuant to the local improvement policy. So the municipality at large, 75%, just over $2 million, and the benefiting owners, 25%, just over $700,000. Council can choose by resolution to do a different percentage breakdown, however, and this is a fairly unique proposition. The local improvement tax would be collected for 25 years, spread amongst the benefiting owners by either uniform rates, frontage, another unit of area. We're suggesting frontage or a unit area just because the pieces of land, the land is very different scale from one to another. And that probably be the easiest route to go with the local consultation regarding the improvement plans. Benefiting owners would have the option of making a lump sum payment or making an annual payment as per the MGA and the policy. Council may opt to vary the 75-25 split. So what we suggested for the doing it in one scenario is municipal reserves, 708,000, benefiting owners, 708,000, general taxation, 1.4 million. The estimated debenture would be 2.1 million. However, if we look at just executing phase one in 2026, it starts to look a little bit more manageable. The subtotal gets you to gets you just over $1 million. And the municipality at large at 75% would be paying 812,000, just over 812,000, benefiting owners $271,000. You could also look at a 50-50 scenario with the municipality and the benefiting owners splitting $541,000. There'd be 13 to 16 benefiting owners in that one phase. The suggested breakdown as per policy is put forward for consideration on that 50-50 scenario, 541,534 between municipal reserves and benefiting owners. And that would limit the debenture to $541,534. At the end of 2024, the engineered infrastructure roads reserve sat at $1.3 million approximately. In 2025, the annual contribution to this reserve is $135,000, and a total of $231,900 is budgeted to be used from this reserve, meaning that before interest, there's a balance of nearly $1.2 billion. There's also the municipal land development reserve, which currently sits with a balance of just over $2 million. So there are some options. Given the sizable proposals submitted to the federal government, the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund in March for Westview, we do advise caution in terms of how much reserve funding is committed toward any single project. We can also add the RCMP municipal collaboration to that list now. Borrowing impacts estimated for the whole project over 25 years, an annual payment of $94,500, $945,434 interest for phase one only. This is, and this also, the 25-year scenario gives you pause for that. $541,534, that annual payment of $36,000 over 25 years, but there's a lot of interest in there at nearly $400,000. A shorter term could be chosen. The town's borrowing limit currently sits at just over $9 million, and the annual debt servicing limit currently sits at 1.7. Other potential debenture projects like the THRC, the medical clinic, and other emergent infrastructure priorities also need to be carefully considered. Even if you've got a set up revenue flow from something like a lease, for example, the medical clinic discussion, it still counts toward, if we have to borrow, it still counts towards our borrowing limit. So limiting borrowing as suggested to the phased approach would be optimal as this and the next council weigh possible future options. It would probably do the least in terms of tying the next council's hands. In conclusion, phase one would still open up an estimated 5 to 10 acres of remaining town land with future phases still planned. So that's why we've recommended the phase one option for council to discuss.
All right. Let's open it up. Who wants to start us off? Councillor Mitchell got there first.
Either way, yeah, thanks for this. I wholeheartedly agree with your recommendation as far as the phase. You laid it out. We've got other possible projects coming down, and to strap us in ways not needed. And I've sat in this room and said it doesn't get cheaper if you wait, and it probably won't. But given the circumstances, I think this is the only way we can approach this. And if we have the other phases ready, so once we get the phase one done, we understand what we're dealing with, whether it's geo or whatever, the next phases, they'll be set. So if there's somebody coming to us, with proposing to go into the industrial area, we have a plan ready, which I really like. So I would wholly back your recommendation. It's the one that makes sense for us right now.
And do you have any thoughts as far as who's responsible for what, as far as
No,
the municipal portion versus the benefiting landowners?
Yeah, the 50, I mean, the 50/50 is,
Can it be any number? Is there a limit to what that could look like based on the MGA, or is there standard taxation rate or?
Council appears under the MGA to have a reasonable degree of discretion in this. A specific percentage, I'd have to go back to the legislation and look, but 75/25 was simply the policy that you set, but that was focused more on roads, sidewalk in residential areas, water, sewer renewal, similar to the policy in Vulcan. For something like this, a 50/50 approach that avoids things falling onto general taxation very much might be more attractive.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Councillor Miller.
It would be easy to support this, and I do. My caveat, I guess, on my support is how it impacts our borrowing limit, which you don't say anything about here at all, is developing Westview. And I, for one, am keenly interested in seeing Westview lands developed. Not the whole thing, but there was that, 12-acre parcel in the southeast corner of that piece of property. I would like to see us get ahead with Westview development. Councillor Mitchell has very appropriately said, it doesn't get any cheaper. We're out of land, we're not selling any lots, we're not getting any additional tax benefit from new properties. Everything that was for sale in Westview is sold. So while it's easy to support this, and I think it's a great idea that we get started on this with phase one, I also want to see how it impacts our borrowing so that we can start something in Westview. It would be easier for me to support this whole program if there was something lined up here for Westview in terms of how it impacts our borrowing and the limits on borrowing. So maybe you could bring that back to council in a future meeting. For tonight, I'm happy to support phase one as you've laid it out here, but I for sure want to see how this is going to impact our borrowing and how it impacts development in Westview. Not the new area structure plan that we talked about tonight, but the one that we've had on the books for 2 years already for Westview. That's what I'm interested in.
I did very peripherally address that in the report, just talking about the sizable proposals that have been submitted to the federal government. How long council wants to give that is up to council. Federal programs, I honestly, after our experience with the Natural Infrastructure Fund, if 2.5 years is too long, I guess you'll probably want to discuss Westview before that amount of time is up. But we do have an idea of those costs, and that is why the phased approach in part is being suggested, because the scale of borrowing required for Westview, even for Bearland subdivision, without any senior government funding, will eat into the town's borrowing in a major way.
So the recommendation, or one of your comments here under executing phase one. So the municipality at large being 50% and the benefiting owners. The debenture for that would be 541,000 if we were to go with that approach.
That's hopefully the approach. We'd need to refine that a little bit. Any thoughts on that? No. We'd have to refine it, but that would be the most straightforward way of contributing from reserve for half, and then asking the benefiting owners to provide the other half.
which
of the phase.
exactly, so
Yeah.
they would be paying that and the general tax base would not be responsible for that.
No, it would be a local improvement tax directed purely at them.
Yeah, but it would give us that opportunity to still work with Westview because that debenture is essentially being taken care of already. 50% seems like a massive amount. And I'm wondering what the implications could be to those property owners as far as attracting new businesses and being competitive with other property taxes in the region, or how does that look?
Well, that would be, if council wanted to pursue this one, that would be when we would develop that fully costed
Yeah.
scenario, which we're required to do by legislation.
Councillor Zopp.
Thank you, your worship. So on a 50-50 split, are we paving any of the roadway?
No.
So these 16 people are gonna pay $33,000 over the 25 years on average. That's $1,352 more a year in their taxes. And they got what they have now, the existing business, a gravel road that in front of their building. I think it's a tough sell to them people. I agree we should do it, but I think for the rate increase in their taxes, they'll expect more, like pavement. Thank you.
So maybe just as a refresher, Neil, if you want to talk about, because we did talk about why we're doing this upgrade to the roads as opposed to a pavement road, which given the amount of heavy trucks that were coming in there, we'd be repairing those paved roads.
It would be it would cost considerably more than the number in front of you. And it would be an extremely high maintenance piece of surface road because of the heavy vehicles that use it. The view of Public Works is that it should remain gravel. There is a debate whether 19th Avenue could be paved. It potentially could be there could be a better case for that in the second phase. But for 18th at this time, given it's supposed to be to industrial standards, which 18th Avenue isn't presently built to, that would be, we would recommend gravel only at this time. And don't get me wrong, this is completely council's purview here. You could pay for the whole thing if you want, if you're concerned about the taxes of these businesses.
Yeah, no, we're not going to pay for the whole thing, in my opinion, no. And I think Councillor Mitchell's as well. So again, just for anybody who might be watching online, these roads were never built to industrial grade. They were never built to accommodate the weight of the trucks that are currently driving up. And that's where the situation is. So we're rebuilding these roads to be able to carry heavier loads. And
yes, and it's also an opportunity to deal with stormwater management in particular, which is a serious problem in that area.
Yeah, 100%. Councillor Miller.
Could the tax sharing, you've shown us 75-25, you've shown us 50-50. You've asked, could it be something else?
Yeah.
Could it be 60-40? Could it be something that shows the taxpayer that, look, we're not out to get you, we're not out to penalize you, we're not out to get you to pay for half. You pay for 40% and we'll pay for 60%. And my next question is, why can't that gravel road be cold paved? It doesn't take as much compaction and substrate work as a gravel road or a paved road. But I'd like to see us look at that option or some other options to improve the gravel road. Let's look at a different sharing rather than 50-50 and look at the potential cost for cold pave.
Okay. What's everyone else's thoughts? So right now, tonight's resolution, we are hearing that we're just gonna go with phase one, and break down the percentage. What's everyone's feeling on a 60-40 split, 60 from the town, 40 from the benefiting owners, as Counselor Miller recommended, Counselor Mitchell?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I like to see the numbers and how they work, and then Counselor's up said, like, how is it paid? Right? So is it just on their tax bill every year? That their share of it? So it's not, well, obviously, like you said, it's an extra $1,300 a year. And I hate to say death by 1,000 cuts, but it's not here, we need $500,000 from you 16 businesses. It's over the course of, yeah, and I guess they would see trouble seeing the benefit or the value add, but the road will be different. The road will be different, and the biggest thing, and touched on it, is the stormwater and the drainage. It's gonna be designed where the water sheds off, it's gonna go where it needs to go. The coal pavement, I've actually never seen that, Councilor Miller, where an industrial road is coal paved, because that stuff falls apart quicker than, doesn't it?
But it's basically gravel.
Yeah, so it's just oiled? Okay. And that's something that you could look at on a yearly basis, whether it's a calcium or however they decide. I know the Foothills experimented with paraffin on some of the, for dust control.
Keeps the dust in.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't mind seeing the different scenarios as far as what the breakdown is, so we know exactly what. Because it's hard when we're trying to keep in balance other projects and see what makes sense and how much money we're gonna borrow, but then find the scenario where we pay more. So I wouldn't mind seeing what the actual number is. I'm sure we could do the math real quick, but I'm not doing it.
Any other thoughts? I think we've kind of got to a consensus here on council, that we do want to move forward with phase one. 60-40, do you want to see that scenario? And then we can have that come back to council. Is that what you require today, Neil? And to be funded through municipal reserve
Yeah.
and debenture?
That's correct. This is because we have to, the reason I came to you at this point was because there are so many different scenarios that we could do this. And it's quite a lot of work for corporate services and ourselves to put that together. So we can provide you a couple of scenarios, but within the guidance you're giving us, but there could be a lot of different scenarios if I don't ask you the question.
No, and I appreciate how you've broken it down. I think that really focused minds tonight. So the resolution I have here, and Sarah Lynn, let me know if I'm missing anything, move to direct the Chief Administrative Officer to proceed with planning the Nanton Industrial Lands Roads capital improvements as a phased package of 3 standalone projects over 3 to 5 years, commencing with phase one, being a portion of 18th Ave and 23rd Street at a total estimated cost of $1,083,068, with the municipal portion at 60% and the benefiting owners at 40%, to be funded from reserves and debenture. We got it? Who would like to make that motion? Counselor Zopp got it first. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, guys. And so that'll come back to council for
Oh,
the
yes.
breakdown and just,
Yeah.
all right, item 5.4, request for decision on council remuneration. So at the end of every council term, we always review the council remunerations. So the next council would benefit from the decision, not this council. Neil or Clayton, I suppose?
Sure, I can speak to this. So yeah, this was brought to you guys in June, and then in July again, we came back. There was a kind of a request for an average, what that might look like. That's not really easily determined. Looking at the Alberta Municipalities Wage Survey and neighboring communities, the current honorariums are pretty close to in line with an average. They're not really high or low. You can see there, the current policy, the mayor's honorarium is $14.21, and then council is $1,000 a month. And that was set in 2021. We haven't seen any increase since that was set. Per the policy, council can review it annually, and they would be tied to the Alberta Consumer Price Index. So if we look at that over the past 4 years, if we were to increase based on that, it would be quite large. That's not really prudent or necessary. When we look back further from 2014 to 2020, the few raises that there were, they were in that 1.5 to 2.5%. If you guys remember as well, we implemented a health spending account for council to supplement the overall benefit package. So based on kind of the best practice to do smaller increases annually instead of one large one, and the fact that council honorariums are pretty closely in line with neighbors, we are suggesting a flat 2% increase for the start of the upcoming council term. So overall, annually, that would be just shy of $1,800 paid out in council honorariums above what we pay out now. So not a huge amount, but it's kind of just to keep things moving along. And then we've attached a revised council remuneration policy. Section 1.3 is all that's really changing. The mayor's would go to $1,449 and council $1,020. And then we're leaving that option to review it annually and keep it tied to the Alberta Consumer Price Index.
Okay, we'll open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any comments? Or would anyone like to make a motion? You're going to make the motion. The motion would read, move to approve the council remuneration policy to increase the monthly honorarium for the mayor and councillors by 2%, effective at the beginning of the 2025 inaugural organizational meeting, to $1,449.94 for the mayor and $1,020.34 for councillors, as attached to these minutes as Schedule A. Councillor Miller has made that motion. All in favor? Against?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. What was your vote? Okay, motion carries. All right. Item 5.5, information brief, MD of Willow Creek land use bylaw.
Yes, the information brought to you this evening is just for information only, unless you felt that there was something within the proposed land use bylaw for the MD of Willow Creek that you wanted to comment on. It is not mandatory to comment, simply an option for council as a stakeholder. When reviewing the proposed changes to the land use bylaw, it was quite clear that the Nanton Urban Fringe District was not going to change in its listing of permitted and discretionary uses. But it did give some indication that at some point when we are reviewing our intermunicipal development plan, there could be proposed changes that would be required as a reason for any changes to the IMDP. So they're leaving the door open, and I think that's consistent with what council's discussed in their strategic plan as well, that we need to go over the IMDP. We haven't had that opportunity yet. It'll probably happen in the next council's term. And at that point, if there is any changes that need to be made to the land use bylaw to align with that plan, I think that would be the appropriate time to take those steps. But the links were provided to you guys, so you had the chance to take a look at it yourself. And if you have any questions or comments, I can certainly forward them on to the MD of Willow Creek by the deadline.
And just to add to what Georgina said there, some of the issues that will play out in the Nanton Northwest Area Structure Plan, the comments that we get back from meetings with the MD of Willow Creek, a lot of that feedback will probably help shape our discussions on the IMDP when that comes to be done.
Any questions, comments from council? Not seeing any. I think that's just it. We'll leave it for the IMDP to have more relevant discussion on who does what. Okay, we'll move on to item 6.1.1, which is a request we received for a proclamation on nation depression screening. National, thank you. There we go, National Depression Screening. Sarah Lynn, did you want to speak to this?
We had received this email through our online portal to make a proclamation for National Depression Screening Day. It is something that I've brought forward to council to see if it is something you want to support or not. Mental health is, as we've seen, is very important, especially with what has been going on in the world. And I think it's important that council discuss doing the proclamation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? So the resolution would read, depression is the most treatable mental health issue. Early treatment promotes faster recovery and prevents long-term effects on individuals and their families. In 2024, 2,498 Albertans who participated in the National Depression Screening Defense Hotline online screening test, 63% were recommended to seek further evaluation. During the week of October 6th to 12th, Albertans are encouraged to check in on their mental health and take the free online screening test at www.areyoufeelingok.com. Therefore, I, Jennifer Handley, Mayor of Nanton, Alberta, on behalf of the Town of Nanton Council, do hereby proclaim October 9th, 2025 as National Depression Screening Day. I encourage all citizens to check in on their mental health and take the online screening test at www.areyoufeelingok.com. Would anyone like to make that motion? I'll make the motion, actually. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 6.1.2, the Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework Committee meeting call for agenda items. So this will be our last ICF meeting of this term. And so they're just looking to see if there's any topics that we should bring to the MD to be discussed in September. Anybody have any? Councillor Mitchell?
Yeah, I think we haven't stopped doing it, but share of recreation.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the other surrounding relationships with town of the MDs, if you go east, the County of Vulcan pays for a ton more than what we get, a ton. Just talking with some residents over there and what their share from the MD is, considerably more. So, and we've asked our associations to start tracking where the kids are from, where they reside. And I can tell you, Minor Hockey, out of 100 kids, probably 70 of them are from the MD on average. So I would like to keep advocating for that. And they've gotten better, but it was so low that even the littlest crumb looks like we really stepped up, and they don't. So that's one thing I'd really like to keep pushing.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else? Okay, not seeing any. We'll report back, let you guys know how the meeting was. For information, item 6.2.1, a Rowan House letter that we received. So Sarah Lynn and myself attended their AGM, and they were just thanking us and updating us. Or no, that was their 20th anniversary. Or yeah, it was. So we continue to build our relationship with and value our relationship with Rowan House. Item 6.2.2, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police new commanding officer of Alberta. Item 6.2.23, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police letter to Premier Daniel Smith, and item 6.2.4, the press release from the Town of Nanton and the RCMP partnership. It was moved at 9:30 to hold closed confidential sessions pursuant to Section 1972 of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26 and the Access to Information Act, ATIA, as follows. Item 7.1, Municipal Buildings, ATIA Section 26, Disclosure Harmful to Intergovernmental Relationships, and item 7.2, Request for Decision on the wastewater disposal, FOIP Section 24, advice from officials. Who'd like to make the motion to go into closed? Councillor Sop. All in favor? Motion carries. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, catch our breath, and we'll go into
You
closed.
know why you don't see water in the dry pond?